Hey, Tony, talking trash about music tonight on my ECM, on our ECM situation. I'm going to go to number 23, and I'm going to hit you with one right, a neighbor of the last record that I talked about. This is one that's a little bit unusual. I'm not about the Stanley Cowell trio. Who would think you'd get Stanley Cowell, Stanley Clarke, and Jimmy Hops for a trio illusion suite? And who would think Manfred Eicher would be producing this at Sound Ideas in November of 1972 in New York? Engineered, though, by George Klobbin, so probably brought his people in. Mixing engineers Ripe Weiland, distributed by Polydor, and you're talking very early on, and you're talking 1973, and I'm talking about a completely different situation. Okay, first of all, what are you going to get here? You know, Stanley Cowell playing, you don't really think, I mean, I don't think so much of that, of an avant-garde, but Stanley Clarke may be the one that stands out here. But the Illusion Suite, this is his record. This is what he wanted. So right out of the gate, Stanley Clarke comes out in the first one, and he's playing an acoustic bass. And it's almost, it's some found sound that they're coming through there in piano, but you've got basically, you know, Stanley Clarke starting off pretty straightforward. Things aren't too crazy. Then the funk enters in with the second one. IBN Mustafa, something Mustafa, and it's an electric bass riff. It's a riff bass thing, and you don't hear jazz like that very often on the ECM records, especially. You don't hear, this is something that would come maybe to the forefront later around Headhunters or something here, this is really preceding that. So in that era, it's kind of different. You got a lot of wah-wah. You got a wah-wah piano, and the wah-wah's coming somewhere. I don't hear it on the process with the bass. Sometimes it's coming back. This is typically not an ECM thing at all. This is really, you know, Stanley Clarke waking up on that second one, and you really start to hear him start to get a little more busy. Now, acoustic bass goes back to acoustic bass on the third song. And that's what you have. And I'm talking about, this is side two. So I'm sorry. This is Miss Vicky was the first one that I'm talking about. Acoustic bass then comes in on the Emil Donnenberg. And these are all increasingly, you know, the 8 minutes is the second song, and another bass, basically slower, you know, reminds me a lot of that. The Evil Donnenberg reminds me a lot of something like this. Sounds like Felice Kilimanjaro style, with the way Stanley Cowell's playing a gospel like piano touches and stuff, and the way that the drums are. Jimmy Hops sounds very much Tony Williams like. That sounds a lot with that, and that's the second one. And then it's very odd. You know, I think this is this Astro Spiritual. I think if I have one. And again, I didn't really do a lot of the second of the first side here, but these are all Stanley Cowell tracks. I don't hear in much the way that the ECM. It really stands out sorely to me how sympathetic every ECM record is, how sympathetic the players are to each other, and I think to me, they bring a different every time to an ECM project. There's a little restraint. Well, I didn't hear that from Stanley Clarke here. And I'll tell you the truth, there's a lot of people stepping over each other that I heard on this record where I wasn't super impressed with the way that this came off. So I think this is an okay record, but in my opinion, this is 1026. This is Stanley Cowell Trio. It's probably worth a lot of money. It's worth a lot to hear this. I think there's some great points on it. But as far as an ECM record, it really doesn't fit. And as far as the performance goes, I'm not really that crazy about it. So I would say thumbs are kind of down on 1026 Stanley Cowell. Let me know what you think, guys, all my ECM folks here. I don't. The problem is that even if it doesn't succeed as an ECM thing, and that's one reason, but I just don't think on quality. I think this is one situation where this trio, and I'm not sure if they played together a lot, but it doesn't sound like they're very sympathetic to each other's playing, and that was a little bit of a disappointment here. And you don't hear that very often in an ECM record, but it could be that's what they want to do, just blow. So anyway, end of that. Let me know what you guys think. Buddy's always from ECM, always ECM crowd. Let me know. Leave your thoughts there. Let me know if you have this record, what you think about it. Thanks. We'll talk to you guys next time.